Welcome to Connecting the Dots, a laser-focused quick-fire interview on the food and the economy with international experts where we seek answers to questions all of us should be asking. I'm Ajay Jakar, Chairman, Bharat Krishik Samaj, Farmers Forum India, as well as Vice Chair of Action Track to Shift to Sustainable Consumption Patterns at the UN Food System Summit. As the UN Food System Summit draws to a close, we welcome Dr. Shakuntala Haraksingh Thilsted, the Vice Chair of Action Track for Advanced Equitable Livelihoods for the UN Food System Summit. She is also the honored recipient of the World Food Prize. Your views as member of the high-level panel of experts on food security and nutrition of the United Nations Committee on World Food Security are very important and very well known. Thank you, Dr. Shakuntala, for joining us today.
Thank you, Ajay, and thank you so much for having me.
You are from Trinidad and Tobago, and you are of an Indian descent. Can you tell us a bit about your personal journey and how you became interested in nutrition and aquatic foods?
Well, that's a long journey. I grew up in a very progressive Indian family in Trinidad and Tobago. And at times in my home, we were 4 generations of women. And my grandmother ruled the kitchen. And she instilled in my siblings and me the importance of eating a wide variety of traditional local foods and how this would help to make us smart and to grow strong. She paid a lot of attention to the combinations of foods when she made dishes, and also to the combinations of foods that were put on the plate as we ate. And this really intrigued me about these combinations and the qualities of different foods and what they give to each other. So at that time, I wasn't thinking about having a career in this field. But as I continued my studies and I got married to a Dane, moved to Denmark, and there I became close to my husband's grandmother, who was from Germany. And that opened up a whole new range of foods and ideas and diets. And it was very intriguing to see this. As we moved, my family and I, as we moved and lived in different countries, in Asia, in Bangladesh, and Nepal, and traveled a lot in Asia, and also in Africa, I was always interested in the role that food plays in culture, in religion, in livelihoods, and in keeping people nourished. And therefore, I brought this with me to the work and to my research, the work I have been doing with communities and designing my research questions, the approaches and the innovations. And this has stayed with me. I would love to work with a group of people multi-sectorally. Can you imagine working with anthropologists, working with others who look at culture and identity and to see the value that food has in our culture and identity, not only now, but also traditionally and going forward.
Fantastic. That's really, really fantastic. I think a lot of the climate change solutions lies in what our grandmothers and great-grandmothers told us about not wasting food, having a diversified diet. In 2021, you became the first woman of Asian descent to be awarded the World Food Prize for your landmark work on developing, promoting nutrition-sensitive aquatic food systems. You established that many small fish species commonly eaten across Asia are an important source of essential micronutrients and improve the absorption of nutrients from plant-based foods. Do you think consumption of aquatic foods needs to be promoted for their nutritional benefits even in dry land or inland ecologies? Would there be an environmental cost for such an approach?
Thank you, Anjay. A broad question, and with many aspects of the work I have been doing for many years. Firstly, I do think that the consumption of diverse aquatic foods, animals, including fish, and also plants, aquatic plants, and microorganisms, for example, seaweeds, must be promoted for their nutritional benefits. We do know that aquatic foods are rich in multiple micronutrients, minerals, and vitamins, and these are highly bioavailable. And that aquatic foods are also rich in essential fatty acids. And these micronutrients and essential fatty acids are crucial for cognitive development and for growth of children, especially in the 1,000 days of life. So therefore, that's enough evidence and enough value for us to prioritize aquatic foods. As you mentioned, aquatic foods not only have nutritional benefits in their own right, what they bring in terms of nutrients, but they also enhance the absorption of micronutrients from plant source foods on the plate. And in addition, if you would think about the ways we use aquatic foods, the ways we prepare aquatic foods, especially in low and middle income countries, in Asia, in Africa, in small island states, aquatic foods in dishes are mixed with other foods. They are mixed with vegetables, they are mixed with fruit, herbs, and spices. So they add even greater dietary diversity and even more nutrients to the diet. So as we move together with the UN Food System Summit, and we are talking about transformation of food systems, we must look towards a transformation that is holistic and includes food, land, and water systems, and thereby also the aquatic foods that are found in the water systems. You ask me about dry lands, and you ask me about how does this work? But if you go to Africa or even parts of Asia, you would see that in dry lands, there are seasonal rains. And with seasonal rains come seasonal water bodies. And these can be put to good use for growing aquatic foods. And just look at for example, you asked me again about the inland ecologies. Just look at Africa with the Great Lakes of Africa, and also parts in Asian countries with Great Lakes, with the wetlands, the rivers, the rice fields. These are all inland sources, aquatic sources of aquatic foods. And these are especially important for rural populations. For many populations, rural populations, these are the only sources of aquatic nutritious foods. So yes, we should go further with aquatic foods and aquatic food systems. About the environmental costs, you ask me, there is growing evidence that producing aquatic foods is of lower environmental costs compared to terrestrial animal foods. People are now looking towards seaweed as a good example of this for rehabilitating degraded ecosystems and habitats. So there's a lot, it's a new field, there's a lot to do, and we should move forward with the research and evidence so that aquatic foods can play an important role in transformation of food systems.
Thank you. You are the Vice Chair of Action Track 4, Advanced Equitable Livelihoods for the UN Food System Summit. I've been inspired by your views in the summit in the last whole year, and this is being held in September of this year. In the action track, you have covered a lot of ground. Do you hear issues such as consolidation in food value chains and data asymmetry that we are discussing in the global south? And is that worrisome?
Ajay, those are big questions, but let me give you some of my views. First of all, it's really an honor to be part of the UN Food System Summit and also to be the Vice Chair of Action Track 4. Because this action track focuses on people, and within the people groups that we have identified for focus are women, youth, and indigenous peoples. In the UN action tracks, we talk a lot about broken food systems and how they can be transformed. And as you know, many in the food systems are small-scale producers, farmers, fishers. They are supply chain actors, processors, and consumers. So we have people within the food systems at every stage of the food systems. And many of these are small-scale, many are poor and vulnerable. With the consolidation of the food chain, therefore, there is an issue, and in the minds of many, is there going to be displacement of these groups of people? And also, will the consolidation make space, for example, to having youth play a role in food systems? So I do think we must all work together, governments, the private sector, the civil society, to document what consolidation means in terms of benefits, but certainly also in terms of trade-offs. And therefore, we must put solutions in place and perhaps not wait until the issue occurs, but look to make the analyses and see which of the solutions that we are putting in place that take into consideration the equity and take into consideration small-scale producers, small-scale processors, and the poor and the vulnerable throughout the value chains. About big data and consolidated data. These data mask inequality, especially for the poor and vulnerable, including women and children. In my work, I look at big data and meta-analyses to see the nutritional and health benefits of food consumption patterns. And this is extremely important as I design my research. However, these big data, we need disaggregation of the big data into social groups, into geographical locations, by sex and by age. And this is missing. We need more of that. Only then, when we have disaggregated data, would we understand the issues and the challenges we face. And only then can we have culturally acceptable and solutions that work for all. When we have these solutions that work for all, then we can use these to scale up to other communities, to other parts of the world. But first, they must work within context, or else we won't get anywhere. And this is important if we want to have solutions that work for all and leave no one behind.
Thank you for that. That's a very clear answer. The UN Special Rapporteur on Right to Food has talked of lack of focus on human rights in the Food Systems Summit. Would you elaborate on it and why this is important?
The voluntary guidelines to support the right to food for all, adequate and nutritious foods, was endorsed by the Committee on World Food Security in 2004. And today, 2021, there is still a lot of discussion about how countries are upholding this right. And now, with the disruptions we are seeing with COVID-19 and the climate crisis, there is even more discussions. In the 2021 State of Food Security and Nutrition report, there are dire data about where we are and where we are heading, with the increasing numbers of hungry and malnourished people, with the numbers of people losing their jobs, losing their incomes, and thereby having less access to food. And this is hitting women and the youth more than adult males. So there's also a disaggregation in those who are being affected by these crises. Many organizations, also the UN organization, are calling for making more use of public procurement and food and nutrition programs for the vulnerable and for the poor. And examples of these, as we have seen in the discussions at the UN Food Systems Summit, are, for example, school meals, mother and child healthcare programs. So if we would make better use of these programs and put them into place, we would make sure that we stave off the increases that we are seeing in the numbers of malnourished people, the numbers of hungry people, and we can hope that we can still have a pathway to meeting the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals.
You were the first woman officer to work in the Ministry of Agriculture in your country. You have also built your career in the field of science and agriculture, which remains largely male-dominated, including in my country, in India. What has been your experience, and what advice would you give to women researchers seeking to work in these fields? And it's very important to get women researchers into this agriculture research and extension system.
Thank you, Ajay. I'm working now in India, in Odisha and Assam, and I can see the changes that are happening, and they are happening rapidly. We have many more female officers in the field. But if I would give my own experience, I have been thankful because I have had the trust and the support of my family, my colleagues, and importantly, I have had the trust and the air of mentors who have made my path easy as I went along this way. And if I would look back, these mentors, as you said, it's a male-dominated area. So all my mentors until now have been men. My advice to women researchers is, of course, there is nothing to replace hard work. Believe in yourself and perseverance. But you must make best use, as I did, of the support from my family and friends. But importantly, you must spend time in the field. Engage with the people and engage with the communities. Listen and learn from them, not only about their needs and the challenges they face, but listen very carefully to their ideas about the solutions that they would like to see for themselves and for their family and for their children. And when you listen to them and you learn about their ideas of solutions, then that would help you to frame your research questions so that you can work in areas that will benefit those who are less fortunate than you. And of course, and that would be an extremely wonderful way to have a career and to have a life, if you can do so, if you can work in areas where you can help others.
That's wonderful advice. Thank you for those inspiring and kind words. Thank you for having come on this interview. Hope to see you in India sometime when you're working here. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Dr.
Ajay.
Thilsted. Thank you so much.
I hope as soon as with the COVID-19 situation improves. Well, of course, I have to get back to my projects that I work with in Odisha and Assam. But I also want to go to Chennai because now, having received the 2021 World Food Prize, I want to do an interview together with the first recipient of the World Food Prize. That is Dr. Swaminathan, and he's in Chennai. So I have to get to Chennai to talk with him.
I'd love to be there when this interview happens. Looking forward to seeing
you. Maybe you should be our moderator, Ajay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this interview. Thank you.
Thank you.